So I guess we are live, guys. Hi guys, good evening everyone. Welcome back, guys. After 2 days of holiday, we are back on track. Guys, can you let me know if I'm audible, if my screen is visible, and if everything is good? We'll be starting shortly. We'll wait for 2 more minutes for people to join, and then we'll be starting our day 6 session. I can see people are still joining, so we'll wait for some time. Good evening, guys. Good evening, everyone. Yes, guys. Can you let me know if I'm audible, if my screen is visible, and if everything is fine? We'll be starting shortly, guys. Okay, guys, great. We'll wait for 2 more minutes and then we'll start with the class, guys. So in the last class, if we take a recap, we talked about props. So we talked about, if we have it present, okay, we don't. So we talked about something known as props and how they work. And if we just take a short recap, we got to know that they are used for transferring data from higher component or from a parent to a child element. So they are used for transferring data from a parent to a child element, right? That is what props are used for. So similar to props, we will be talking about something new today, which is exactly similar, used for storing data, but not for sending or transferring from one, you can say, component to another, but for storing data in a particular component. So what we talked about was sharing of data from one component to another, that is known as props. Now, what we'll be talking about is how to store some data on your particular component. To storing of data, we are talking about storing of data in a component. So for sharing, we use props, and for storing the data in a particular component, we use something known as states. So we use state for storing the data in a particular component. So basically state can be referred to as the particular, you can say, scenario, in terms that, for example, let's say we have a particular, let's say, component, and let's say that I want to show here some content, and I know that this content is only to be visible in this particular component. So what can I do? I can simply store this data or whatever I want to display directly inside a variable, right? A variable or a constant, whatsoever you want to use inside my component in JavaScript. So yes, that is what state is used for. State is used for storing data which is responsible or important for only its own component. Okay, that is what state is used for. So that is what we'll be talking about. And guys, the reason we are talking about state is, guys, yes, definitely you can store it simply in the form constant. So if you make a variable or if you use let to store something in JavaScript, it works exactly the same. Let's say you create a variable name, or let's say you create a variable name, both of them are same. And if you create or if you store some data like this, right? I store something here and I store something here, right? It will simply work. It won't make any difference. You can store some data like this, but when it comes to manipulating it or updating some data, it is very hard, guys. Okay, so if I want to update this field, I can do it, but it will give me a problem in normal JavaScript. So we use something known as React hook for it. So we use something known as React hook for basically doing this. Let's continue, guys. So now let's continue. So what do we use for storing data? We use React hooks. So let's talk about it. Don't worry guys, we will be right back. Yep. So we were talking about state. So let's do it. So I told you state is used for storing data in a component. Right, that is what state is used for. So state is used for storing data in a component. How do we do that? We do that with the help of something known as React hook. Okay. So guys, what are React hooks? React hooks are nothing but basically small functionalities which are pre-built in React. And what do? They basically help you. They basically help you in achieving certain tasks inside React. And what are we doing? What are we using React hook for? We are using one of the React hooks for state or storing data inside a component. The hook which we will be using is known as UseState. So guys, there are multiple React hooks. Okay, one of them is known as UseState, and that will help us in storing the data inside a component. Okay, that is what it is used for. So are you guys able to understand what and how exactly, what is state, what it is used for, and how we will be using it? Yes guys. So guys, one more thing to remember. State is basically any data. So state is basically referring to any data that we want to store in a component. Okay, we are talking about any data we want to store in a component and update it. So we are not just talking about storing it in the, you can say, component, we are also talking about updating it. Because React hook and using UseState makes it way easier for us to store it and update it in any point of time. We'll be talking about the architecture. We'll be talking about how exactly update happens and what exactly is responsible for that. But before that, let's look into basically how exactly it works. So let's see how UseState actually works. So we'll go back into our basically the code which we were working on. Right, you can see I've opened the output. Let me just refresh and you can see this is what we have. Now guys, let me just give you a scenario where you might want to use something like UseState, or you can say state management. Let's say that this is very random and this has no use, but let's say I want to place a button or I want to create a counter in my application. So what I want to do, create a counter. So what I want to do is I want to create a button, right, which says add +1. Okay, and I want to create a h1 heading. Basically I want to create a h1 heading which basically shows here that number. Let's say initially it is 0. So initially it will show 0 as a number, and whenever I click on this button, I want this value or this particular value to update. Okay, so whenever I click +1, then it should change to 1. Then whenever I again click on +1, then it should change from 1 to 2, and so on, 3, and so on. And it should be instantaneous, guys. It should not look like my page is reloading again and again. No, it should be instantaneous, and I should be able to update this value whenever I click on this button. Okay, how do we do that? We can simply use UseState hook for that. Okay, UseState hook will be used for creating a variable which can store this value and updating this value at any point of time in your application. Now let's see how exactly it is done. As I told you, UseState is a part of React, so we will have to import this functionality from React. So if you remember how we imported a functionality, what we can do if we want to import a functionality from React, we can say UseState, and that's it. I have imported the UseState functionality from my React application. Now, if I want to use it, let's say I want to use it in home page. So this is my home page. You can see this is my home page. I'm at my home page. Now I'm showing this random cards, fine. But for now, what I'll do, I'll just hide these cards for now. I don't want them. It is taking too much of space. So I hided those cards. And now you can see I have go back to contact page and I have hello, this is home page. Now, what I want to do, I want to create a button here. Okay, I want to create a normal button, and inside that button, I would say add +1. Okay, so this is what my button should say. And you can see, let me just zoom in a little. You can see it says add +1. Let me just add a little bit of break tags in between so that I have decent amount of space to show you how it looks. So let me just copy it and paste it here as well. Now if I see my output, yes, I can see I have this button. Now what I want to do, I also want to create a h1. For now, this h1 will show nothing but a string 0. So guys, this is not how it will work. Okay, I'm just showing a hypothetical situation. You can see it shows 0 and then it shows add 1. But now guys, this is not a variable, or this is not a number or anything. This is just some random data I'm storing inside a h1 tag or a heading tag. So this will be treated not as a number, but as a random string. So if I want to store this, or if I want to basically store this anywhere, or store basically able to update it, I will have to store it in a variable. So it is something related to JavaScript. And where did it, what did I tell you? Where can I use JavaScript, or where can I do anything related to JavaScript? Here in this section. So we will be writing our first JavaScript code, and that will be written here in this section. After the function starts block of code and before the return statement. So here, what I want to do, I want to use UseState so that I can create a variable and I can store this value inside it. So how do we create a variable with UseState? Simple. I say const. I want to create a constant variable. The variable name, let's say I set to number. Okay. And then I say equals to, I say UseState, and I say this. And now inside it, I specify the default value. So what did I do here, guys? Very simple. I said, I want to create a constant variable number. Okay, I want to create a number variable, and for that number variable, I want to store a default value of 0. So I'm using UseState to create a number variable, and by default it stores the value of 0. So by default this number has a 0 value. So if I want to display here any variable, so if I want to display any variable in React HTML, it is very simple, guys. You don't need to use any JavaScript. You just need to use curly braces, guys. So if I want to show this number variable here, I just need to specify curly braces, and inside it I need to specify number. That's it, guys. That is why React is also very popular. You can see this is how simple it is to show a variable inside HTML or HTML looking syntax. If I refresh, yes, you can still see a 0, but now it is because of what? It is because of this variable number. Okay, guys. So if you are asking me why am I putting this square brackets, right? So we are using not normal variable. Okay, we are not creating a normal variable like you do like const number. Okay, const number equals to 0. If you are confused between these, this and this is totally different, guys. Here I'm using UseState. So I am using a functionality provided to me by React. And the way it works is that you need to specify here a curly braces. Okay, guys. So basically what it means is that you have some array of data here. Okay. And that first data property is the variable. Now it also contains one more thing next to it. So let me just write it. It contains a function with it. So the number of the function, or the name of the function, is set number. So whatever you want to have, so whatever variable you have, which is number, and then next to it, you have a function. So guys, this is nothing but the name of the function. And by the name, it is quite clear that what this function will do. It will set the number. So basically, this function would be responsible for at any point to update the value of this number variable. So what exactly are we doing? We are using you can say UseState functionality provided by React, and that is why the syntax looks a little different. Let me just break this down in a whiteboard, and then it will be little bit more clear about how exactly it is used, right? And then we can talk about it more. So it is pretty simple. Just first try to let's first try to understand the syntax. Okay, so we have a constant. Okay, we say const, and then we provide here a variable. Okay, a variable, and then a function, guys. The next thing which you provide here is nothing but a function. So let me just remove it and let me just say my variable name is number. So guys, this is something known as variable, which will be storing the value, and this is something known as function. Okay, so here I would provide a function name. And guys, this is not necessary. Okay, so the way I'm writing it is not necessary. You can name this function whatever you want. But according to the guidelines or React, how it works, it prefers you say it as set and then the variable name, set number. So I know that this is my number and this function would be used for setting this number. That is why it is preferred to do it this way. You can name it anything, but this is preferred. Now, what is this function responsible for? Updating number variable. Okay, that is what is the work of this function. So guys, this is the function name, and whenever I use this function set number in my application or in my component, I would have the power to update this number variable. And by default, I said we are using UseState, so I need to specify UseState. And at the end, whatever I specify in between these brackets, that is basically referred to as the default value of this number. So by default, my number variable would have a value of 0. This is on you. I've specified 0. If you want, you can even specify a string here. I can say Aditya. Okay, this would also work. This is a string I want to store inside my number variable, and I can store them. So yes, you can store whatever you want, guys. So I'm storing a number as that is what we want to do. But yes, you can store whatever you want, and this is how it works. Now guys, are we clear on the syntax of how UseState works inside React? Then we'll move further and we'll look into how exactly we update our data or update our variable with the help of set number. Yes guys, yes or no? Is this clear how we are working or what exactly this syntax means for UseState? Then we'll proceed. Okay guys, now let's proceed then. So we have seen how it works. Now, how to update this number value, guys? So if I want to update this number value, how do I do it? Simple. Wherever I want this number value to update, I can just simply say set number, and inside this I can specify. So it is simple, similar to like calling a function. So wherever I want to update the value, I call this function set number, and I say here what I want this value to be updated to. So if I say here 3, then whenever this function is called, this number variable would be updated to 3. That's it. That is it. That is how we update it. If I want this number value to be updated to 4, I can simply say here 4. Now guys, if you just understand this logic, then what would I have to do if I want this number variable to update to +1 every single time? I want this number variable to update to whatever I have stored till now. So let's say by default, I know I have stored 0, right? So by default, the value here is 0. But what do I want to do now? Now I want that this 0 plus 1 should be happen, right? So what do I want? I know that I have stored something in my number variable, right? I know I've stored something in my number variable. Whatever the value is, for now it is 0. I want to add 1 to it. That's it. That is what you need to do. So in my current scenario, I'm storing 0 and I want to do +1 to it. So whenever this function runs, it does 0 plus 1 equals to 1. Now, if you again call this set number function, what it will do? It will again say number plus 1. So now what exactly is the variable or the value stored in this number? It is 1. This is the updated value in the number, right? So 1 and plus 1 equals to 2. So you can see you can update its value consecutively, one after another. So I think this should be clear how exactly we can increase the value by 1 plus 1 plus 1 again and again. Because it is storing the default or the previous value. Now let's apply it in our application and see how we can do it. So first let's try this value, or first let's try this functionality. So I should be able to update this variable whenever I call this function. Let's see. So this is my output. I can see I have this number, but whenever I click on this button, I don't see any update. Why is that? So if you remember, in JavaScript, you have something known as OnClick or something known as events, guys. So in this button, I can attach a OnClick event, which means that whenever I click on this, there will be a JavaScript event which will be fired. So I can target that event and I can say that whenever I click on this button, I want this value or this function. So I want this function set number to call itself and therefore update this value and therefore show me the output here. Simple. So in JavaScript or basically in React, the life is made easy for you. So how to attach a OnClick event? Very simple. You can just say OnClick. That's it. That is it, guys. You just say OnClick and you can call your function here. So I am in curly braces, right? I said if I want to use a JavaScript variable or do anything related to JavaScript in, you can see HTML based syntax, I need to use curly braces. Then I need to specify the function. So whenever I click on this, you can say button, I want a OnClick event to fire, which is a attribute. And I want here which function to be called? Set number function to be called. So what I can do, I can say set number. That's it. I can call the set number function and I can update it to some value. Now guys, remember, I need to update it to some value which can be, let's say 2. By default, I say it is 2. Okay. And remember guys, this won't work. This syntax is not correct. I want to show you something. We'll talk about it, why it is not correct, why it is giving you error, but I will show you that this will cause you a problem in React. So let me just show you. You can see I just got a random error here. Okay, I knew it would happen. I'll tell you there is a very small thing you need to change here, but you can see it says that too many re-renders. Okay, now what is re-rendering meaning here? Then we'll talk about it, but says that React limits the number of re-renders to prevent an infinite loop. So basically it is saying that whatever code you wrote here basically broke or basically stopped React from working properly. Why did that happen? Because your application started going into an infinite loop. So you wrote some code which started looping on its own. So it started updating itself again and again n number of times, and that can give you a problem. So why did it happen? How did it happen? Let's first talk about it. So this line of code, guys, this is the only line of code which basically created this problem. For that, we will have to first understand the way exactly these updates work. So the way in which these numbers or use state works, we'll have to first understand that. I'll just give you a glimpse of it. We'll understand in detail about it in our next class, but this is how it happens. So whenever you have a component to be displayed on the page, what happens? You load the page and you see a component. So we are at home page. So we see the home component. So the home component is displayed and we know we have a button. Basically, we have a variable number to be shown, right? We know we have a variable h1 and inside it, I want to show a variable number. Okay. Now, how exactly use state works, guys? Very important to understand. So whenever this button is clicked, guys, what happens whenever this button is clicked and I know that I am updating this variable. So by default, React knows that whenever someone clicks on this button, this number should get updated. So basically a trigger or React gets to know that this number needs to be updated. So what it does? It checks that in this component, do we have any state? Do we have any state to be updated? So it plays a question mark against it. Okay. So it says that I clicked on this button and React wants me to update some value or update some state inside this home component. So it will check for it. Do I really need to update it? So what it will do, it will check. By default, the number contains 0. And I want to update it to, let's say, +1. I want to update it to 1. So it will check. Do I really need to update? It will check. Are they same? It will say nope. So it means yes, I need to update. So what it will do, it will update it. Now how it updates? So whenever there is a update in a state, basically there is update in a state variable or any variable created with React hook UseState, it basically loads this component. It does not load the whole page, guys. Remember, React is smart. It knows that there is only update in this component, and therefore it will only reload, or you can say re-render, only this component, this section of the page. So what it will do, it will reload, and now it will show here the updated value, which is 1. Now if you again click on this value, it will again compare. Now I have a current value as 1. Do I really need to update it to 2? It will say they both are different. So yes, I need to update them. So it will again reload only this component, and it will be updated to 1 to 2. Now let's say there was some way in which I created a function where I only updated the value from 2 to again 2. So what did I do? Whenever I clicked on this function, I just wrote something like set number, and I updated the value to 2 again. So it was 2, and I updated it from 2 to 2. So it will just compare. It will say my current value is 2, but the value which I need to update it is again 2. So do I really need to do an update? It will say nope, both the values are same. So at this point, now it won't do a upload or basically a reload. So what? React is smart enough. It compares the old value and the new value which it needs to update. And if there is really an update, it will refresh itself, or it will refresh the particular component, and the update will be visible here on your screen. So guys, this is how it works. Remember, very important. Okay. And this is what is causing us problem now. Okay. So let's look into it. So now what is the problem? I just showed you the architecture. This is how basically React UseState works. I was just telling you about the architecture. Now what problem we are facing here? So if you remember, in our OnClick, we wrote a code, right? Just give me a sec, guys. We'll be back. Yes. In our OnClick, we wrote a code which says that call this so-and-so function, which is set number function. So call the set number function to update the value to something, right? This is what we called. But remember something here, guys. This is not a correct way of calling this function. Why are we getting a problem, or why are we going into an infinite loop? The problem is that whenever this component gets loaded, so whenever this is inside the home component, right? So whenever this first time this component is being loaded onto the screen, it just reads this line and it says that, oh, I need to do an OnClick. So basically by default, whenever this function is being, you can say it is being written onto the screen or in the component, it says there is a set function I need to call. Even though I didn't click on the button, it says by default you need to call a set number function. So by default, what happens? It just calls this function for the first time when the component gets loaded for the first time. Okay, so when the component was displayed on the screen for the first time, it automatically called this function. It automatically called this function, and there was a reload on the page. So this function was called, there was a reload on the page. Now again, it again reloaded the component, and this function again got called. Why? Because the first time I told you this function will get called by default. So it again got called. Now again there was a refresh made, and again we refreshed, or basically we got the same function. So this is why it is going into a loop again and again. You can see the reason. So it is always calling this function for the first time on the reload. And that is the problem, guys. Did you get it? Did you get the problem which we are facing here, guys? Yes or no? Then we'll proceed, guys. Yeah, guys. Okay. Anyone who did not get this, I will repeat it again, guys. Because yes, it is an important topic. And if you did not get this, I can repeat, not a problem. Anyone who did not basically understand why we are getting this error? Okay, guys. So I think it is clear. Fine. So this was the problem. It was reloading and it was calling the function again. Then again it was reloading, calling the function again. And this was causing it to go into an infinite loop, which React stopped itself from doing. So it just showed an error and it says, oh, you're going into an infinite loop. Please check your code again. So how can we resolve this? This is a very common problem which a lot of people do, and that is why I showed it to you on the first, you can say, go. So how you can resolve it? You can just create an arrow function or an unnamed arrow function for it. That's it, guys. What did I do here? I just said that please create an arrow function inside it. Now, what did it do? It just said that whenever this function or this, you can say, section is reloaded for the first time, it will just say it is an onClick and this is the unnamed function inside it. Now, how this works is it will just display it like this. And this function cannot be called until and unless you do a onClick. So what does it do? What did we update it to? We said onClick and we set it to a unnamed function here. We set it to a unnamed function and then we said set number and we said this, right? What will this unnamed function do? Now it is restricted, guys. Now there is a restriction here with this unnamed function. This unnamed function can't be called until and unless the onClick happens. So even on the first load of the page, first reload, okay, even on the first reload, when this component is getting loaded to the screen, this function can't be called until and unless you do a real event of clicking on the button. So therefore, you resolve the problem of the infinite loop. You resolve the problem of infinite loop by just attaching a unnamed function to it. Now what will happen? Now if you go back and if you just refresh your page, you will see now I don't have a problem, guys. Now it seems like I'm getting the output. You can see I'm getting 0 variable and 1. Now guys, let's try it out. So what we have done here, if you remember, I've said that whenever I click on this button, it will just check set number and it will update it to 2. And it also compares, guys. I said it compares. So it will check. My current position is 0 and I need to update it to 2. Are they both different? Yes. So it will reload this component and the update will happen. But if both of them are same, it won't update. So if variables are same, there is no need to update, right? That is what it will do. So let's check. For the first time, you will see the change. Because for the first time, it will be updated from 0 to 2. Let's see. Let's go back and click on it. You can see it updated to 2. Yes, it did update to 2. You can see it updated from 0 to 2. But now after this, you click as many times as you want. But there will be no change. You can see I'm clicking it as many times I want. But no change. Why is that? Because it already changed to 2. And whenever you click on this function or whenever this function is called, it says that, oh, the value, the number is already 2. I don't need to change it anymore. So it will just don't do anything. And yes, you can see there is no change. But if you refresh the page, one thing to remember, whenever your website gets reloaded, guys, your state gets reset. So your state gets reset to 0. So if I reload this page, you will see it gets reset to 0. Important thing to remember. Now the state is 0. If I click on it again for the first time, it will be changed to 2. Yes, you can see it is changed to 2. After that, no change. If I refresh, it sets again to 0. If I click on it, update. Now, this is not what I wanted to achieve. What I wanted to achieve was whenever I click on this button, it changes from 0, then 1. Whenever I click on it again, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So what I need to do? Only a small update in this logic here. I want to say, get me the current value. So my current value is stored in this number variable. So get me the current value, which is number variable, and update it by +1. Add +1 into it and update my number variable to number +1. Right? What did I do? Number equals to number +1. So it stores 0 plus add 1. So if I refresh the page, and now if I see my default value is 0. If I click on it, it did 0 plus 1. Now my number variable stores 1 for this instant of time. For this instance, it stores 1. Now if I click on it, it will do 1 plus 1, which is 2. For now instance, my number stores 2. If I do 1, it will store 3 into it, plus 1. 3 plus 1, 4, and so on, guys. But remember, the time you refresh the page, it will reset to 0, guys. And this is how you can use UseState to store some data and to refresh the data on a particular event or whenever you want, guys. I just showed you one example, guys. It can even be done with a, you can say, string. I showed you with a number. How to do it with a string? Very easy. If I want to store here a name, let's say I want to store here Aditya. Okay. So what do I want to store here? By default, it should say Aditya. Now, if I want to update it to some other name, I can just say here, let's say I want it to update to my name, last name, Gusai. Now, if I go back, refresh the page, by default, the variable stores Aditya. But the time I click on it, it will be updated to my last name. So you can see, yes, but now after that, it won't update. But yes, you can see, you can even store strings inside it. Okay. So that is what I just wanted you to show. Yes, guys, is now UseState clear and how it works clear to you? Yes, guys. How they work, how they can be useful, and why they are used. Okay, guys, great. Guys, definitely, if you're asking me, if you're just asking me, can't I just store a value inside a variable like this? If I just want to store a number, let's say const number equals to 1. Let's not use number because it is already used. Let's say if I want to just create a variable num, can't I just do this? Yes, you can, guys. But remember, if there is at any point you want to store a variable which will be updated in future, right? If you want to store a variable which can be updated in future in your component, you will always use UseState. You won't use variables like this. No, guys. This is not what you need to do. There is already predefined UseState made to store variables which can be updated at any point of time in your component. So yes, if you want variables which can be updated in future in your component, use UseState. If you just want to store some data for a time being, it won't be updated in your component, you can store it in normal variables as well. That should not be a problem. So guys, I think it is pretty clear how UseState is used, guys. Yes or no? Yeah, guys. Okay. So I get a yes, which means that it is pretty clear. Now, guys, let's talk about your assignment or basically the small project which you will be making. Okay, guys, we haven't talked about it, right? So let me just tell you about it as well. So what you will be making for the final submission. So guys, I won't be giving you a very big project. I'm just keeping you free on whatever you want to make. So what you need to do is just be responsible enough to add all the functionalities or features which we have learned about in your project. So you can make anything, whatever you want, guys. If you want to create, you can create a portfolio, a professional or a personal portfolio section, right? If you want to create, you can go with portfolio. If you want to create, you can create a clone of any, you can say, small website. Don't go with a very big project, guys. If you want to create, you can do whatever you want. But just be responsible enough to add all the functionalities which we have talked about. So what are the basic functionalities which I want you to include in your project? That is what I'm telling you. We talked about routing or multiple pages, how to create multiple pages. That is what I want to see in your project. So how to create multiple page? You should be having a application which should have multiple page. It is on you. You want to create 2 pages, 3 pages, 4 pages, but it should have just multiple pages. That is what you need to remember. Then the second thing which we talked about is state. So somewhere it should use state. We also talked about props. So it should use props. Okay. We know how props can be used. We know how state can be used. Now it's on you how you use it. I just want you to use these features in your application. How you create your application, what you select is totally on you guys. It's totally on you what you want to create. It's just that you should use all the features which we have talked about. Now we have also talked about components and how to use, you can say, multiple components, how to create multiple components. Guys, on the last day, basically not on the last day, after 1 week, you have 1 week of time for completing the project, guys. You will be basically given a form, guys. So lastly, after 1 week, you will be provided with a submission form where you can submit your project. It will be a separate form for submitting your project, guys. Okay. So that is what I want you to do. You'll be provided with a different form where you'll have to fill all your details and you will submit your project. I would prefer you make it on Code Sandbox. Okay. The reason it is easy for me to check your code, right? And at the same point, review it and give you whatsoever details or whatsoever remarks I need to. Okay. So do it on Code Sandbox. It will be better. I would be able to review it and provide you with the certification as soon as possible. And we will be adding some more functionality, but these are the main ones. How to use multiple components, multiple paging, how you should use that. Navigation. So we use something known as link tag provided by React Router DOM. We can't use anchor tag. Because of that, we used something known as link tag. So include that so that we can navigate from one page to another. Now, what you want to create is totally on you. If you want, you can create a very small, you can say portfolio, or you can say portfolio with 3 or 4 pages. Let's you create a portfolio. In first page, it contains your photo, your head, or you can say full name, your designation, and some details. Then you also create just a second page which contains your contact details. That's it. That is a small but a clean project. You can even do that. You created a portfolio website with React as a starter project and you included all the basic features which you wanted to. If you want, you can create a small shopping cart, right? You can create a small shopping cart. Let's say you create a shop, you can say website landing page for showing the different products. And whenever I click on a particular product, I am navigated to a particular product page. You can even create this, right? A small, you can say shopping website where I'm seeing some products. Whenever I click on a particular product, I see the basic details about that product, pricing, pay, and everything. No need to make it fully responsive, or you can say no need to apply a lot of brain into it. I just want to see if you can apply functionality on it. If you can apply styles very well, good for you. And yes, you can even showcase your styling skills if you want to. If you know CSS very well, fine. But we were talking about React, you can say in majority. So yes, that is what I want to do, or that is what I want to check if you can use React properly on the basis of what I've told you. That's it. So that is what you need to do. If you basically were not able to understand what you need to do, I will be repeating it again on the last day, guys. So not a problem. We'll be talking about this again, what you need to submit as a project. We'll be talking about it tomorrow as well. So not a problem. Yeah, guys. So that is it for today. We'll be ending our class here. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day. We'll meet tomorrow and we'll continue with the rest of the content, guys. Till then, bye-bye and take care, guys. Have a nice day. We'll meet tomorrow and we'll continue with the rest of it. Tomorrow will be the last session. And yeah, guys, attendance link. Sorry for that. Let me just provide you with the attendance link as well. Yeah, guys, I've shared it in the chat box. Please fill it. I've pinned it at the top as well. I'm providing you with 10, you can say 10 more seconds for you to fill it. And then I'll delete it from the chat box and we'll finish our class for today, guys. Yes, guys, fill it as soon as possible, guys. Then we'll finish our class for today. Okay guys, that is it. I'll unpin the message and I'll delete it. So that is it for today guys. Have a nice day. We'll meet tomorrow and we'll talk about the rest of it tomorrow guys. Till then, bye bye and take care. Have a nice day guys. Bye everyone.